Hey everybody, it's Aaron here with Robert, and welcome to Get Your Geek On's retro review of horror movies. Essentially, we're going to watch these horror movies, give them a rating, and see if they should be released now the way they were back then. This week we are doing the movie Insidious, which was what, 2010, I believe? Not that long ago, actually.
Yeah, it's about.
So
I mean, it's not that long ago, but it's also 12 years ago.
yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like, yeah. I mean, we've done. We started with The Exorcist, so that was 50
Oh,
years ago.
yeah.
So that's we've come a long way in terms of
Yes.
special effects, acting styles, editing styles. All those things are
Yes.
very different in today's environment than they were in the 70s. But this is our second James Wan film because you chose randomly or I because I have to say randomly because you didn't even know
Yeah.
um, a second James Wan film. The first one, of course, being Saw that we released last week. So hopefully
Yeah.
you had a chance to check that review out. And yeah, we're talking Insidious, which is I mean, I guess it would be our second supernatural one because The Exorcist
Yeah.
is also that, and even Halloween could sort of be fit into that. It's much more of a slasher
Yeah.
but he is a supernatural character. Um, but yeah, this one definitely delves into the you know demons, the I mean, it's dead people that are like appearing as apparitions and trying
Hmm.
affecting our world and those types of things. So we are going to be doing spoilers as we get into this uh, movie. But I guess initial thoughts. I mean, you have I think said in the other reviews this is kind of the one that got you back into horror movies.
Yes.
So clearly you've seen this before.
Yeah.
How long had it been for you? And
Oh
like
wow.
was watching it again. I mean, like a new experience, or was it like, oh, I remember this whole thing?
It was so I mean, it's been a good few years since I've watched it. I think I've watched this one, even though again, horror films, they're not ones I go back and rewatch like every year.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this one a small handful of times when it's one of those, oh, it's on, let me sit down and watch it because I have nothing else to do. But I'm not gonna be here like, oh, every Halloween I gotta watch Insidious. No, that's not my nature. I still love the film. I will say that uh, this was a rewatch where I actually paid attention more. So I did notice a little more details in certain things, like, wait a minute, that's there. I don't remember that there. Oh, okay. So now I'm picking up on those little nuances. Again, I guess you could say like preluding to the creature and what's gonna happen in the next scene, because there was a couple parts where I was like, I don't remember that person standing there. I don't remember that color being there. And
Mm,
then the scene picks up and the creature's in something else. And I'm like, oh, it was a prelude that he's hiding in plain sight kind of thing. Okay.
sure.
And stuff like that I picked up on more. And again, I still love the picture that's my background since you're watching us. It's still one of my favorite things and it still works. So I'm still happy with it because again, this was the film that got me back into horrors. I mean, I had seen like The Tooth Fairy, I think at this time. So we're talking 2010. So it seemed like The Tooth Fairy, all the stupid slasher films. I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre had come out a couple years before this. I've seen the Eight Films to Die For, which was a little film festival they were holding for like 3 or 4 years in a row. So I was getting back into it slowly, but there was just some of them that were just so corny still that I was like not liking it. And then Insidious came out, and I was like, this is what horror should be again. This is what's going to bring me back in. And it did. And then I guess unknowingly, I, liked the director and his work more than I thought. But since you hadn't seen this one at all, I want you to go first. Tell me what you liked and didn't like, I guess, first. Because I know you had messaged me after the first 10 minutes about
Yeah.
it.
So for me, this is not the type of movie I typically will seek out or really even enjoy. I don't particularly like movies that make me jump scare or that kind of rely on that, or kind of supernatural movies, unless they have kind of a psychological aspect to it. Like
Right.
psychological movies, I really get into, but like these ones where it's just like there's something weird happening, there's supernatural occurrences, and then we get an explanation for what those supernatural occurrences are, generally aren't movies I watch a lot. Now, this is what I will say about this movie is that early in the movie, really, I would say until Elise shows up,
Yeah.
I was really into this movie. I was really enjoying, kind of the creepiness of it, what was happening, the fact that there was obviously some things that they were encountering that had affected their child, who is now, in a not coma. So he's,
Right.
not in a medical coma, but he's also not waking up, and all these things, and there's unexplained, and they can't figure it out, and they move houses because there's a bunch of weird stuff happening at the first house, but then there's weird things happening at the second house. Like, all of that I was into. It was very clear early on, to me at least, that this had something to do with the dad as well. Like, that
Right.
was from the very first moment when they started talking about pictures and where are the pictures of dad. It was like, oh, clearly he's got
Yeah.
something in his past and his childhood that's also part of this. So there wasn't a whole lot of, I guess, mystery around it.
Right.
Um, Once Elise showed up, which is shortly after the screenshot that you have there, which that
Yes.
was very effective,
Right. I want to
because
say that real quick. My favorite,
yeah,
favorite.
it's just because it comes out of nowhere. All the other times it's been like either nighttime, or we've gotten some weird, like with the record playing, and that whole scene, like it was all creepy, but this one was truly just like boom, like it just happened.
Hmm.
And so I thought that was a very effective kind of like, whoa, where did that come from? Um, but yeah, then Elise shows up and gives the explanation, and I was not on board with the explanation. That
Okay.
part just made me go, "Oh, that's really disappointing that that's what it is."
Hmm.
And then even once we see Patrick Wilson's character, kind of then he goes into that space to try and retrieve his son. Most of that didn't work for me. I thought it was kind of like just, like I wasn't scared, I wasn't freaked out, I wasn't like, it was just like, it was much more freaky to have the stuff happening in our world than it
Right.
was to visit this other world. Even though there's freaky people and freaky things happening, it was just kind of like, this is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be freaky, dead people,
Exactly.
like all that stuff. And so that didn't really work for me. And even the way that they came back into our world, like I don't understand how the little kid got away from the demon, or did he get away from the demon? Like, that
Hmm.
it feels like that demon absolutely should have been able to continue trapping him once he got separated from his dad. Like, I was like, why is this demon not able to just recapture him? um and then, the dad, like, doing his just leave me alone, I'm not scared of you. Again, it just, I don't know, it wasn't super effective for me. I did like the final twist. I thought that worked, again, of having, the dad basically
Yes.
not return, that it is this creepy old lady that has, now inhabited his body in our plane of existence.
Right.
I thought that really, I liked the way that ended. But yeah, I will say the third act kind of fell flat for me, and that's why
Okay.
ultimately I think the movie's good. I think it's not great because that third act just fell a little bit flat for me.
I can see that, and I can see why you would feel that way, especially again, not being a horror buff, not like in being into that spiritual side or the supernatural side. I'll say I did like, again though, I do like that the old hag. I don't know if they ever give her a name. The woman in black, whatever you want to call
Mm-hmm.
her, is essentially in his body now, and I like that we kind of hinted at the movie like, oh, they can get into your body if they cut the string, blah blah blah. So it
Right.
kind of preluded to it. My drawback for this whole film, and I get why they're there, is the comic relief in Specs and I forgot the other guy's name already. Terrence, Trance, I forgot his name.
Taylor, maybe.
Taylor,
I
something
think
with a
it's. I
T.
think so. Yeah.
They were so forgettable for me. I didn't care for them. I get they were supposed to
Yeah.
be the comic relief and they are helping, which is cool. But at the end of the day, I didn't need the comedy behind it.
I will say that they're kind of like bickering relationship about who's more important.
Mhm.
It didn't feel it didn't feel like real. It didn't feel like,
No.
oh, these two guys have this rivalry that's been going on for 15 years. And
Yeah.
like, it just, I don't know. I will agree with you. Like, that aspect of it, it just, it kind of felt out of place.
Hmm.
I don't know that I really like, I didn't find it funny. So I'm not sure, was it supposed to be comic relief? I think it
I
was
always,
just,
yeah.
I don't know. And I didn't mind either of the individual characters. I just think their dynamic with each other
Right.
didn't didn't really sell me, that they've been doing this for a long time, and
Yeah.
they have these, like, this kind of work rivalry, going on like that. None of that came through, if that's what they were intending. I don't know. I agree with you. They were pretty
No.
forgettable. They were forgettable characters.
Yeah, I mean, and the only reason I remember Specs is because of the name. I'm like, that's such an easy name to remember. And literally, you got thrown through a wall by a demon. So it's like, okay, I kind of remember you. The other guy's just sitting there taking pictures. And I guess I look at them as comic relief because we get a part where the bigger guy, the not Specs, he's using the equipment and he's like, oh, this one sees the infrared in the spectrum of light. And he's like, it's just a toy that he modified. And it's like, why did you need to take that jab? Like that really, that's why I thought it was supposed to be comic relief, but I'm like, that was just kind of mean. Like it wasn't even,
Yeah, it is
funny.
It's one of those things where it's like, if they are hinting at this like work rivalry, it feels like it's moved past the playful banter stage to the no, they actually don't like one another.
Yeah, and then that's the
and
drawback.
I'm not sure that that's what I want out of this paranormal team.
Exactly, and then that's the drawback because there is several other movies, and the second film they're working together still, even though she's dead. Elise is dead. Right. Sorry, spoiler. She's dead at the end of this.
I spoiled the whole movie.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
We said we were going to spoil it.
True. She's dead, and there's in the second film where I'm not going to talk too much on it, but they're working together. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, so there's no hatred. So that's why I always feel like they were trying to joke, but they just fell so flat. And it should have been more of like I'm just messing with you, dude. Like I respect your work, but mine's better. But I'm just messing with you. But that little thing too was also makes me like, okay, you're supposed to be infrared lighting or changing the light. It's like changing a filter, and I'm like, I don't know about that part. That again, they didn't sell me.
What absolutely works for me is the atmospheric build through the first two acts of this movie, especially coming through Rose Byrne's acting. Like you can see how unhinged and freaked out she's becoming by all of these occurrences. And I will say I wanted more from, there's this one particular scene between her and the nurse where the nurse is, like they're kind of talking and she says like, oh, it feels like the universe is throwing everything at me to see if I'll, I'm bending to see if I'll break. And the nurse says like, well, they picked the fight with the wrong woman. And it was like, I've never seen this character before, but they have this like shorthand and this relationship that clearly they built over time because she's been this personal nurse for however long for their son. But I was missing it. Like it felt so out of place to like have that validation come from this character who literally this is the first scene we've seen her in.
It could have been easy to explain too as like, it being a cousin or somebody that's relative that's like, oh, I'm gonna help you. Okay, well then you kind of say, oh, well they were a family dynamic, so that she knows that part.
Yeah, well, and again, we don't see her have to battle anything else. Like we get kind of hints that their home life wasn't great before they moved into this new home, but we haven't necessarily seen this character like, oh, you've made it through thick and thin, and you can handle anything the world throws at you. Like we don't get those hints to that, and so when she says that, you're like, can she? I don't know if she can deal with all this stuff, like because we've seen her from the very beginning kind of just start to break down throughout the whole movie. But again, I think that part works in terms of her, kind of descending into this kind of mania of like, she's freaked out by everything that's happening. She wants her son back. She doesn't understand what's happening with him. She's trying, like the whole like we need to move, which to me like that came way too late. I would have been like the first night that all the alarms went off and the doors are open, be like, we're moving, we're out.
Although they moved pretty
we're
fast.
Never coming back.
It seems like we're moving. Okay, next day we have this U-Haul packed. We already got another house. How didn't you do this?
I don't care because absolutely that would be me.
Robert's like nah, it's possible.
We are moving out of this house. Paranormal activities start. We're done. We're not staying.
I will say this. So the one thing so this comes out in 2010. My kiddo was just born around this time. Okay. This film screwed me over with the damn baby monitors. This is why I hate baby monitors and why I own a gun, because it's one of those, and see, that's the thing, I would have been different. But again, we're in Texas. I own a gun. If I hear that baby monitor, I hear a voice coming, I'm lock and loading my pistol and I'm going straight up there with that pistol and I'm going to shoot whatever I see. I
had two specific moments I thought in my brain. I was like, there is zero chance this is happening. Okay. And the first one was the first time Rose Byrne's character goes into the attic, it's right after her baby
Okay.
wakes up screaming and crying and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
Then she puts her back in the crib and the baby's magically silent. Not how it works.
yeah. Robert's like, no,
And
I got newborn. I know how this
that's
works.
not how it works. And then goes and investigates what she like
Mhm.
heard or whatever. And I'm like, no, you're not putting the baby down. At that
No.
point, if you're gonna go investigate, you're carrying the baby with you. The baby's on your hip. You're carrying the baby with you. You are keeping that baby next to you because you don't know what sound you just heard.
Yeah.
And so there's no way you're leaving your baby alone. So that's the first one. And the second one is definitely that baby monitor scene. She takes way too long to
Yeah.
go upstairs. Like
No.
as soon as you start hearing weird, creepy things, boom, you are going to check on your child. There is
Oh
no
yeah.
way you're going to like, oh, let me turn up the volume. Let me
Yeah.
go out into the hallway and look up.
And
Is
just
there
look up.
something weird? No, you are running up those stairs to that bedroom to see what the heck is up there.
Yeah. I'm telling you, lock and loaded, I'd be up there in a heartbeat, locked and
So,
loaded, and putting
so
2 rounds
there,
straight
you
to
know,
that door.
yeah, there are a few like kind of like, okay, we're doing this because we want the atmospheric, we want
Yeah.
those things to
We have to
build.
build up.
But again, I thought, there were a few like jump scare moments that worked. The one that's on the screen behind you definitely
Favorite.
is one. I think that, there were a couple others that were just like, when is it coming? Like when he was doing the infrared thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like, clearly he's gonna see something.
Yeah.
Which one? Okay, which one is it gonna be? And it was like on the third or fourth filter that he
Yeah.
put. It's like there they are.
And I
So
liked it
that,
because it
yeah,
delayed it just enough.
yeah. It was one of those things where it's like it didn't scare me because I knew it was coming, but
Yeah.
I think it's still, it worked. I will say, overall, the movie itself has some scary elements to it that I think work really well. Um, I think the creepy music that the demon listens to,
Oh.
which implies that the little kid was also the demon, because that's the song he was listening to. So I'm not sure, but I thought that worked, and I did like when we see kind of him in his workshop and he's like sharpening his nails, listening to
Oh
the music.
yes, I
I was
love
like,
that scene.
that was cool. I liked that. Once you see more of the practical effects of that demon, it does start
It
to like
does, yeah.
it doesn't hold up as well. It's like, you could see the low budget in some of
And
these things.
and I want to comment on that again. This is again another low budget film. It was $5 million, and it grows to 166 million. So again,
Another extremely successful,
and that's why
you
we
know,
have 3 movies, and I
yeah,
think they're working on 2 more still.
yeah,
So
they're and it's an interesting concept to be like, this is, a hereditary kind of condition
mhm.
that, exposes them to this. Again, it was an interesting
It,
concept. I just
yeah,
like the way it was explained, like this is a matter of fact, this is exactly what's happening, and I can tell you exactly what's happening. And I was just kind of like, so there's no mystery anymore, like you're just telling me what it is.
yeah. I wish
I
they would have
think
kept
that
that.
that did kind of take away from me. Like I wanted there to be something that Elise wasn't aware of or wasn't
Hmm.
anticipating. Like that's kind of where it was like, if there had been something where it's like she thinks it's this and then there's something else,
Right.
like that would have been like, oh cool. But she's kind of presented as she knows all the answers, she knows exactly what's going on. And so in that sense, yeah, it just didn't, that was the part that really didn't work for me, is just because she just kind of says this is what it is and then that's what it is. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, like that's a little bit M. Night Shyamalan The Happening, where halfway through the movie they're like, it's the trees, and then you get to the end of the movie and they're like, it was the trees, and you're like,
Literally told you what
really,
it was.
really.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as
It's
The Happening, obviously,
yeah. Oh God, no. I mean, and I think that's the one thing that at least does kind of bring it into a different level, like you said. And I guess that was my other flaw in this one. And but again, overall, I still enjoy it. So going into the rating part, first, what
yeah,
do you think of it as a rating? And second, I know it's only 12 years ago,
yeah.
but could it do its job still?
Yeah, I think that, this movie holds up for sure.
Okay.
I think there's nothing in it that dates it, that says like this is super old. Like this is, yeah, it's 12 years. There's been some advancements in that time. Maybe they would have cleaned up some of the special effects or things like that. But ultimately, I think, if they put this movie out today and the Insidious franchise had never existed, it would still be a big hit. It would still, all
Mm-hmm.
those things. For me, again, I'm going to give it about a 6 out of 10. I think again the first two acts really worked, but it did kind of fall flat for me in the end, and that's what brings it down. Although I did think it was well acted out of our main
Mm-hmm.
characters, especially Rose Byrne. I think Patrick Wilson does a pretty good job as well. Um, and then I thought the Elise, and I don't have her name right off the top of my head, but I think she also
Mm-hmm.
was doing a good job selling her character. Even though I didn't like what her character brought to the movie, she was good
Yeah,
in
she
the
did her
role.
job.
So
Yeah.
I'll say 6 out of 10. And of the four movies we've seen so far, I would say this is the scariest one, just because it's not
Ooh.
my favorite. I think
Yeah.
I think Saw was a
Saw
better
still up there.
movie.
Okay.
But I think that the Saw is not necessarily scary. It's more just like this is like a horrifying thing that could happen to people.
Right.
Whereas this one has that more supernatural. It has more of those jump scares. It has more of those like what the heck is happening? We're creeped out, and so
Right.
those types of things. So I do think this is probably the scariest movie we've reviewed so far,
Mm-hmm.
but not the best. 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Okay. I mean, I'll give it. I can live with that because this is the one that you hadn't seen, so I'll take it. I agree. I agree with you though. I think this movie can be released now if this franchise never existed. I think it would still hold up. Like you said, just maybe fix those particle effects. I think the best time you see it where it's bad is when he's crawling on the wall.
I
That's probably
agree.
the worst part of it all.
Yep.
And I kind of wish they didn't do that because we already have him in makeup. We've seen him a few times in like I get somebody wearing like a makeup or a costume, I think it would have been better just to see him walk around the corner maybe and just like hunched up maybe. I don't know. Get rid of that CGI. I don't need that. I
Yeah.
already know how creepy this character looks. Like you said, when you're sitting there sharpening your claws, like you've already told me this guy is creepy. We've seen him a few
Yeah.
shots here
It
and there.
it was way more scary when it was the shadow in the corner of the room saying I want
Exactly.
Dalton than it was
Yeah.
once it was fully revealed and crawling on the wall. It was like, oh, that kind of looks fake and it's not scary anymore.
Exactly. That's where you lose it. And it's like,
Yeah.
just again, put the actor in it, have him walk around the corner. So yes, I think it could work. I think this movie did well with the daytime scares. I think this is one of the first movies, and maybe I could be wrong, someone can quote me, that did those jump scares during the day. I don't know very many that did that. It's usually always a night scene because it's creepy. And to me, the aspect of the daytime makes it even creepier because you don't expect it.
Right.
And it's just like, here's the little face peeking out. So I think that's what helped sell it. Again, the lower budget does help. We saw that with Saw. I mean, this whole thing is filmed in the house, literally. Like, there's nothing else. There's no other set they have to walk to. We don't get really much more except the house. And then again, when they do the other realm, it's still in the house. It's just
Right.
smoke and mirrors essentially now.
Yeah, and
So
the lair, which is another house,
yeah,
like so yeah, we basically, there are very few shots. I mean, like the classroom, which I will say I spotted Jigsaw. Did you see Jigsaw?
yes, that's why I didn't. I saw this one too. That's why I was like, when I told you, I was like, now I'm noticing little things. I was like, is that
Yeah,
Jigsaw? And I
yeah,
was like, oh yes, that's Jigsaw.
yeah. I thought that was great. The little puppet, which I think actually the puppet has a different name, Jigsaw, but
Yeah,
I
but
just
that's all
I
we
just
know.
say Jigsaw. It was Jigsaw.
Yeah,
I did see that in the background in the classroom, and I was like, hey, I recognize that.
exactly. That's why I said I noticed those little nuances now that he planted in the film. I give this one a 7.5 still out of 10. Still one of my favorite horror films. I think our next one that we're gonna watch is might beat this one out for me a little bit because I
Ooh.
enjoyed that one a little bit more.
Okay.
But this again, this is what brought me back to horror because it decided to go and try something different. With the jump scares, with the explanation. Like I said, now watching it now, yeah, I could have lived without it. Maybe like could have done something different. But again, I like the daytime scares. I like that. I do like the creepiness of that it's the boy they think, but it's not really the boy because it's the demons around him. Because it's that whole alluring, like maybe it's the kids, maybe it's not. And then, like you said, you get the scene with the other kid playing the same song. So it's like, is it who's who? So I enjoyed it. So okay, so our next film is the next film, the other one I picked.
Yes.
Sinister.
Yep.
Yeah, so Sinister came out what 2013?
12, I think. 2012.
Okay. I couldn't
Yep.
remember. So we're gonna be reviewing that one next. You haven't seen that one either, right?
No, literally, we're doing 6 movies, and I have seen none of them. So this is we can
Yes.
stop saying,
I'm just
"Have you
making
seen this
sure.
one?" No, I have not
I
seen any of
forget.
them. So
You gotta
yes,
remember what I'm used to, people who watch like messed up movies.
yeah. So all I know about this one is that it's Ethan Hawke,
Yes.
and it's again going to have some elements of supernatural
Yes.
things to it, which again is not usually my genre. But if you do it effectively,
You can.
we'll see.
We'll see. So on that note, guys, definitely check out all of our videos being released every Monday up until and on the day of Halloween. So we were going to review 6 movies, and hopefully you enjoy all of them. And if you all like this, maybe we'll do stuff later on with other movie reviews. Let us know in the comments and all that. Maybe we'll check out other directors or get Robert to like more horror films. Maybe, who knows?
Or maybe we'll do retro reviews of Christmas movies, or around Valentine's Day we can do some rom-coms. You never know. We never know. We can throw all kinds of stuff at the wall.
Everything. So let us know what you think down below, and of course, like, subscribe, and follow us. I'm Aaron, and that's Robert. Stay geeky and get your geek on, guys.
Bye.